Hello and good Monday evening, Chicago. Welcome back into Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio. Well, that was a beautiful weekend if you ignored the Bears game. That was an ugly piece of yuck that we all sat through. If you did not sit through the entire game yesterday, I don't blame you. That offensive performance from the Bears may have single-handedly set football back a good 10, 20, 30 years. That was rough. We knew it was going to be rough thanks to injuries and COVID all along the offensive line, but even still, that was a tough game. So now the Bears are 5-4, and suddenly the picture is not nearly so rosy and wonderful as it was just a few weeks ago. Where do we go from here? What do we do? How do we fix this thing? Can we fix this thing in season, or are we already to the point where we got to start taking a look at some off-season moves for the Bears to make? Let's try to fix this problem that the Bears have on the team. Also, we all know this, that the Bears are bad in the third quarter. I want to take a little bit of a look at just how bad are the Bears in the third quarter. Let's try to take a look at some of this ugliness and stare into the abyss a little bit and hope that it doesn't push us off the ledge. A lot of Bears stuff to go through tonight. Hopefully they can right this ship, make this thing better. I hope we can find some answers. This is Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio. Buckle up, let's go. And once again, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. I am your host, Adam Karnick. Thank you for taking time out of your Monday evening if you're listening live or if you're listening later as a podcast. However, I can help you get through your week, get through your day. I'm here for you. IE Sports Radio, we are sponsored now by another app company with fun apps like Me or the BS Meter, another app company. They create fun memes and then share them with the world. Thank you so much to another app company for sponsoring the network and sponsoring the show. Some other housekeeping to get out of the way, ways you can interact. You can follow along with the network on Twitter at IE Sports. You can also find us on Facebook. This show is live on the Spreaker app. If you are listening live on Spreaker on Monday nights, go ahead and log in and hop on into the chat. I can see you there and we can talk back and forth there a little bit. You can also follow the show on Twitter at Chi-Town Weekly, IESR. You can follow my personal Twitter feed at Adam_Karnick. You can also follow along with IE Sports on Facebook as well as then the show is broadcast later onto YouTube as well if you want to share it that way as well. So yesterday's game, I didn't have very high of expectations going into that game. And I want to take a brief aside here. On my way in tonight, I suddenly developed a little bit of a cough. I was laughing pretty hard at some stuff I was listening to on the radio. So I'm going to try to keep the coughing to as much of a minimum as possible. But if you hear me suddenly stop and have a long pause, I'm just trying to get in some water so that I don't cough all over the microphone or something like that. So I didn't have very high of expectations heading into the game yesterday, if for no other reason than the offensive line was absolutely decimated during the week last week. You had your third string center start yesterday. You had your backup left guard. You had your backup right tackle, who was already your backup left guard, and oh, by the way, he's a converted defensive lineman. You had your starting right guard, but he hadn't been able to practice all week because he had been in COVID protocols, because he was considered at risk, because he was next to the original backup right tackle who had COVID. It was a mess last week in practice. So, and of all the positions to have a little bit of a COVID outbreak, to have it be the offensive line, that's the unit that, outside of your quarterback room, where obviously you hope to never have an injury or a sickness, and you have your starter just be the guy from moment one, from day one through the end of the season, that you hope to only ever have to play one guy at the quarterback position. The offensive line is that position where you can't afford a whole lot of hits or a whole lot of juggling of moving pieces, because the offensive line really has to work as a unit. You need to have, the center needs to know what the guard is doing and what the tackle is doing on the opposite side of him. And those guys need to all trust each other and know that not only are they doing their job, but the guy next to them is doing their job too. So to suddenly have all these new pieces, I joked on Twitter leading up to the game that the Bears were going to go into that first huddle and it's going to be, oh, hi, I'm Arlington Hambright. I'm the left guard today. Oh, hi, I'm Alex Bars. I'm playing center today. Or I'm Jermaine Ifedi. I'm playing the other guard position. That you were just going to have a jumbled up mess all over the place. So I wasn't expecting a whole lot out of the offense yesterday. And they didn't give you much. The offense was about what we expected. Do nothing for 3 quarters, and then after the game is well out of hand, they put up some garbage time stats. So, as frustrating as it is, yesterday, I don't want to be too hard on them for what happened specifically yesterday, because no team in the NFL goes 3 deep at 2 of their offensive line spots. Nobody does. Yes, every general manager will tell you, well, we have faith in our guys, and every head coach will, well, it's that next man up mentality. We just have to to plug the next guy in there and off we go. Nobody goes 3 deep at offensive line. You're fortunate if you can go 2 deep. You get to that third offensive lineman at more than one spot, something has gone horribly wrong, and you're going to have problems. And Arlington Hambright, for example, 7th round draft pick, he'd been on the practice squad all season. He gets forced into, hey, you're going to be our starting left guard on Sunday, basically because we have no other option. I heard people saying, why don't they go make a move? Why don't they go make a move for some offensive linemen? And I'm going to get into this more later in the show, but the short answer is this season, you can't just go out there and sign a guy and have him come in and play. You can't just sign a guy on Wednesday and have him practice Thursday and Friday and he starts for you on Sunday because of the pandemic. Due to the pandemic, anybody that a team wants to bring in has to effectively quarantine themselves for up to a week before they can enter the team facilities and start practicing with the team. So when you have some guys test positive on Tuesday and Wednesday, you're sunk. You've got to go with what options you have available to you. That's part of why the practice squads have been made to be as large as they are for this season, because you can't just sign somebody off the street and have them play. So you need to understand that. Why didn't Ryan Pace make a move for somebody? Why were we forced to start Arlington Hambright or start Rashad Coward out on the end and putting guys out of position? You literally couldn't bring somebody in off the street this season. You're basically not allowed to because of COVID protocols. where that doesn't, where I don't toe the line, where I don't make excuses and say, all right, you have nobody to block, is Matt Nagy and Bill Lazor and Juan Castillo and the rest of the offensive coaching staff need to then recognize, hey, our offensive line isn't going to be up to snuff for this game. We need to call a game plan that's simpler, that's easier, and is something that is going to take some of the pressure off of these guys so that we can be successful out there. And I think that's where they really struggled. I see Larry in the chat chiming in. The Bears got the backlash from the Titans. They may, the Titans came into this game on a 2-game losing streak, same as the Bears. Suddenly the Bears and the Titans, 3 weeks ago, man, this looked like a fantastic matchup of two really good NFL teams. And then fast forward to when they play the game, and suddenly, both teams are coming in on 2-game losing streaks, and the Bears especially really look exposed. What are we really going to get? It's certainly possible. The Titans got their butts whipped hard by the Bengals a week earlier. They may have been some of that. Honestly, though, I really just think it was the Bears just were the walking wounded and the walking sick. They were the plague team coming in. Ironic. The Titans were the team that had the epic COVID breakout of huge proportions across the NFL. And yet, coming into this game, it was the Bears that were more affected by COVID than the Titans were. I put it more on the Bears than I do the Titans. And the Titans, give Tennessee credit. They played intelligent football. They played good football yesterday. They played well enough to win. But the Bears did not have a smart game plan coming out there offensively. They tried to for about the first drive. They failed to pick up a 4th and 1 on the first drive, and then it was you could almost just see Nagy throw his play card up. Well, that's it. That game plan we didn't immediately have success. Therefore, I'm going back to the classic BU. He always has BU in the bottom corner of his play sheet. I'm going to go be me. I want to wing the ball. I want to chuck the ball all around the field. I want every play to be that potential dagger play where we hit the home run on every play. And it was, Coach, this isn't the time for that. This isn't the time, nor is it the place to have that kind of a game plan. And they looked so out of place. They looked so much like they didn't belong out there on the field. I threw the poll question out there on Twitter. Again, follow the show on Twitter at Chi-Town Weekly IESR. I also open it up to the Bears Facebook group of which I am a part. Shout out to everybody there in that group, the Chicago Bears Fan Zone. They're very nice and let me post about the show and sponsor the show a little bit on there. So thank you to those guys. I threw it out there to them as well in the Facebook group. What's the bigger issue for this team? Is it the play calling or the personnel? And it was almost a 50-50 split. And I had a lot of people tell me both. And I'm going to get into this a little bit more in the next segment. But in this instance, you got to recognize what personnel you have on the field and run plays that are to that personnel grouping's strength. And Nagy failed at that yesterday as a play caller and as an offensive coordinator. I also saw, as always, Bears fans, if the defense gives up any points and doesn't take the ball away 4 or 5 times and doesn't just thoroughly emasculate another team, we're so quick to, the defense has to play better. The defense has to play better. And yes, the defense had opportunities to take the ball away, especially early, and failed to do so. But we're talking about a defense that only gave up 17 points. Ultimately the deciding touchdown, the Bears fumbled in the third quarter. The Titans scooped and scored on that. That's how they got to 24. The defense only gave up 17. So the defense only gave up 17 points. Ryan Tannehill didn't even complete 50% of his passes. He was 10 of 21 for 158 yards. And diving deeper into that, 4 of those completions went to A.J. Brown for 101 yards. So you take one receiver out of that collection. Tannehill was 6 of 17 for 57 yards. And you held Derrick Henry, one of the best, if not the best, power running backs in the NFL. And I think we can agree heading into this game that if the Bears have a weakness on their defense, it is their run stopping ability. They held Derrick Henry to 68 yards on 21 carries. Had I given you those numbers before the game, you'd have said the Bears have a shot. The Bears are going to be in this. If they can get anything from the offense, they can win this. And they got nothing from the offense. So I know Bears fans want to get on the case of the defense. They want to get after the defense because, we lost the game. You gave up too many points. You gave up too many yards. And I believe it was Roquan Smith quoted after the game. It was either Smith or Trevathan, one of the two interior linebackers, said, "Hey, we just can't give up that many points." Yes, that's what you're supposed to say. But damn it, I'm tired of the defense making excuses for the offense's inability to function. This defense played well enough to win yesterday and has played well enough to win in basically every game this season. And this is the third week in a row where we've said, wow, this is the new low point in the Matt Nagy era. This is the new low point in the Matt Nagy era. This is the new low point. We've hit it again, and I don't think we've bottomed out. I hope that the Bears have bottomed out, but I don't think we're there yet. I think, unfortunately, they can still sink to further depths. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we know that the Bears have been awful in third quarters this season. I want to go through some of their scoring numbers of just how bad they've been compared to the rest of the league, not only this year, but a little bit of a historical look at it. This is Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. We will be right back.
What's up, everybody? This is Darren Rodriguez. Are you a fan of volleyball? Are you a fan of Thunderous Spikes? Then I have the show for you, Set Point, where I cover NCAA men's and women's volleyball, high school boys and girls volleyball, beach volleyball, and even professional volleyball. Catch the action every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's going on, football fans? This is me, your boy Larry B, inviting you to join myself, Colin Reynolds, Mike Pat, and John Felipe for one of the most electrifying football shows you have ever heard. 3 and Out, right here at IE Sports Radio. Recap of the week before, a preview of what's to come, and of course, 3 hardcore head-to-head prime-time face-offs each week. You don't want to miss it.
Hi everybody, it's Calvin here from USRN, here to give you an important message. Since 2017, we have done our absolute best to provide you with nothing but the highest quality of sports calls in the greatest of quantity possible. Thanks to you, our station has grown more than we ever thought. That's why, with your help, we would like to grow even further. Just think, twice the amount of your favorite calls, 24 hours of coverage, talk shows, play-by-play, game-by-game analysis, and so much more. That's right, USRN2 is officially in development, but we can't do it alone. We have set up a GoFundMe page that you can access from our homepage on the left of your screen. We also are planning special giveaways and prizes to our highest owners. Our goal here at USRN is to bring you the best calls possible at no cost to you. In order to continue to do that, we need your help now. Please check out our GoFundMe page, and if you would like to know how you can help, you can email usrnradio@gmail.com. Without your support, we couldn't do what we do.
Hey, what's up, sports fans? You're looking for a different type of sports talk show, something you haven't heard before? You gotta check out the BS3 Sports Show every other Saturday on 2 Live Stews Radio, 1 p.m. Central Time, 2 p.m. Eastern. Sports talk at its finest. Always have great guests, playing some good hip-hop. You don't want to miss it. Make sure to tune in to the BS3 Sports Show every other Saturday at 1 p.m. Central Time, 2 p.m. Eastern.
What's good, fight fans? It's your boy, Marcus Rose Great, here to give you what you want, here to give you what you need. Yeah, man. Yeah. I'm coming to you live, straight from your mama's basement with a crispy white tea. They're coming to you live every Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And welcome back into Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports, and sponsored by another app company. Thank you again to another app company for sponsoring not only this show, but all the shows on the network. Be sure to check them out on Twitter, at another app company, and Facebook, and all those other places. So, quick as I look in the chat room, I see Taryn and Larry there. Hello, guys. Nice to have you both here. Larry, I want to say thank you for providing the title for this week's episode. In case you didn't see it, tonight's episode's title is #At least we're not the Jets. Larry last week on 3 and Out on Thursday nights, which, by the way, if you don't check it out, you should check it out on Thursday nights. Larry hosts the awesome 3 and Out show where they have a couple of fans of the upcoming Thursday night game. They talk a little bit of smack, preview the game, have some fun. Larry does an awesome job hosting that. He mentioned last week on the show that a great hashtag for 2020 would be whenever something bad happens, you say, yeah, well, at least we're not the Jets. Larry, as soon as you said that on the show, it was, yep, that's the name of next week's episode, because I know how this is going. I know how this game against the Titans is going to go. This is going to be ugly. And speaking of those Jets, they're playing tonight on Monday night against the Patriots. So if you want to make yourself feel better about the Bears, you can check that out. And if you aren't able to watch or not able to listen to your normal sources, USRN, Seth Eves is going to be having the call of that game over on USRN tonight. So when you get done listening to me, go on over to USRN and check out Seth on the MixIR site. You can listen to Seth call the Monday night game between the Patriots and the Jets. He always does an awesome job of that. And yes, hashtag at least we are not the Jets. That's kind of the mood you got to take it for a game like this one if you're the Bears, because that was ugly. So the Bears in third quarters this season, the Bears have scored a grand total of 7 points in the third quarter this season. I had my friend Matt Sisson, whom you may recall way back at the very beginning of the football season, heading into the week one preview back on Labor Day, I had my friend Matt come on and join the show for a little bit. He is a Lions fan, but he is also very much a stat geek and a stat guru. And I said, Matt, I've got this idea. I want to see. I know the Bears are bad in the third quarter scoring-wise. Just how bad are they compared to the rest of the league? And he turned me on to the website teamrankings.com, where they have got every team in the league broken down by scoring by quarter. So the Bears, 0.8 points is what they're averaging in the third quarter this season. Not even a full point. Easily worst in the NFL. You're talking the next closest are the Giants, the Jets, Buffalo, Carolina, and Miami are all under 3 points a game. But 3 points a quarter in the third quarter. But light years ahead of the Bears. 3 times what the Bears average in the third quarter. The best team in the third quarter is Seattle. Seattle's averaging 10 points in the third quarter this season. And it's that way throughout most of the game for the Bears. You look at the first quarter, the second quarter. In the first 3 quarters of the game, the Bears rank in the bottom third in the league in scoring. They're 29th in the first quarter. They are 24th in the second quarter, and then dead last in the third quarter. So for 3 quarters a game, you're just not getting anything offensively. And that's part of how you wind up in a situation where right now, as a team, you're averaging just under 20 points a game. You've scored 178 points through 9 games, just under 20 points a game, and you're 28th in the league in scoring. They actually, ironically enough, they're the best team in the NFL in scoring in the fourth quarter. They average over 10 points a quarter in the fourth quarter. 10.2, best in the league, better than Kansas City, better than Buffalo, better than, Seattle averages 9.5. Seattle puts up darn near 3 touchdowns a game in the second half. The Bears are better than that, are better than all those teams in the fourth quarter, but some of that obviously is inflated because they get into situations like they did yesterday where you're halfway through the fourth quarter and you're down 24-3, and it's all right. You're the Titans. All right, we can take our foot off the gas. Now the object is we just want to let this clock wind down. Sure, if the Bears score a touchdown, that's fine, just so long as they don't score it, in one or two plays. Just so long as it's not a quick strike, we don't care. And that's, the Bears scored 2 garbage time touchdowns, and, it is what it is. I'm going to take a deeper dive into the third quarter for next week. For next week, obviously being the Bears playing a Monday night game, they're going to be next week. We'll be doing an all Bears preview show, much like we did a couple weeks ago when Taryn was so nice and came on and we talked Bears and Rams for the whole show. I see Taryn throwing it in there in the chat room. He's surprised that the Chargers aren't in that bottom third of scoring teams in the third quarter. A lot of teams, this is something else that Sisson told me, and I've got another stat on that from him, that a lot of teams, for whatever reason, when teams struggle to score, for whatever reason, it seems to be the first and third quarters. Just for fun, Taryn, the Chargers are actually in the top 10 this season in third quarter scoring. They average 5.8 points per third quarter this season. So 2 field goals or a touchdown minus the extra point. They're tied with Tennessee for 6th best in the NFL, and they're right behind Minnesota and Tampa. For what it's worth, I guess I'll round out the top 10 of scoring in the third quarter. You have Seattle at 1 at 10 points a third quarter. Green Bay is just over a touchdown at 7.8. Arizona's just under a touchdown, 6.5. Minnesota and Tampa are both at 6. The Chargers and the Titans are 5.8. Then the Rams are 5.5. Pittsburgh is 5, and then Pittsburgh and Vegas are both tied at 5.1 points scored in the third quarter. But not only are the Bears the worst in scoring in the third quarter, they are historically bad. That same website, Team Rankings, you can go back all the way to 2003. So not a history of the league by any means, but 17 years is certainly not a small sample size by any stretch of the imagination. As it sits right now, if this holds to form, that average of less than a point scored in the third quarter would be the lowest single quarter point average in the last 17 years. 0.8 points. The next closest, you actually have the Patriots this year are pretty close. In the first quarter, the Patriots are only averaging 1 point in the first quarter. They've scored all of 8 points in the first quarter. Or I'm sorry, have the Patriots had their bye? Now I've got to think. And of course, even if they haven't had their bye the same way the Bears have, and they have, so the Patriots have scored all of 7 points in the first quarter so far this season. They've played 2 fewer games than the Bears have because they've had their bye week already due to scheduling, and then they are playing it tonight. So who knows? They could have a huge first quarter against the Jets tonight and blow that average out of the water. But the Bears, outside of this year's Patriots, which isn't done yet, the Bears are easily, the next closest teams are twice as many points in their bad quarters as the Bears are in their bad quarter this year. You've got some teams on there. The 2009 Rams are actually on here twice. I'm looking on here. Yeah, the 2009 Rams are actually on here twice. Their first and third quarters, they averaged 1 point in the first quarter and 1.6 points in the third quarter. But you're talking about historically bad performance here from the Bears in the third quarter. I don't get it. I don't understand what it is. The third quarter, you've got an opportunity as a coaching staff to kind of reset, reevaluate, and figure out what's been going on, what is working, what isn't working, how do we fix this, how do we make this better? And they're just not doing that. So that leads me then into the play calling versus the personnel argument of how much of this can you lay on the feet of the coaching staff and the play calling, specifically Matt Nagy as the offensive play caller, and how much of this falls on the feet of Ryan Pace as the general manager, and as an extension of that, Matt Nagy as the head coach now in his third season. And it was interesting. Again, I put the poll out there both on Twitter and also in the Facebook Bears fan group that I'm part of. And it was not a huge sample size. It was just under 40 people total. So I mean, not huge by any stretch of the imagination, but it was interesting. It was almost 50-50. It was 18-16 in favor of the personnel grouping. And a lot of people said both. A lot of people were telling me it was both. You know, they'd like to say both if they could. I already talked about how yesterday specifically I have a hard time blaming the personnel just because they weren't able to practice due to the COVID protocols, and nobody goes 3 deep on the offensive line at one position, much less 2 positions, which is what the Bears were forced to do. Now they did announce today, yay, good side, Taylor Spriggs is allowed back from COVID protocols, so he can come back and play right tackle, and you can get Rashad Coward out of there. And then on the flip side, Roy Robertson Harris is on injured reserve and is done for the year on the defensive side. So a defensive line that was already banged up and down some people is now down another one. Yay. The injury bug just keeps biting the Bears. But overall, we've seen and flashback 3 weeks ago, I said on here that I'm not necessarily a huge fan of Matt Nagy, the head coach. I'm not necessarily a huge fan of Matt Nagy, the play caller, but I like him as a head coach. Boy, has he tested that resolve in the last 3 weeks. Flash forward to now, the Bears have gotten embarrassed in each of the last 3 games, and in each of the last 3 games, it's been in a different way. You had the Rams game where they just came out with an offensive game plan that had absolutely zero chance of working. It was basically identify Aaron Donald and don't block him and send David Montgomery straight towards him. And then when we drop back to pass, don't bother blocking. Take our worst offensive lineman and have him have single responsibility to handle Aaron Donald. That was never going to work. So you have this horrible design for the scheme from Nagy in that week. Then you have the Saints game where, all right, they had a decent game plan. They just couldn't execute it, and they had a complete lack of discipline in the third quarter. Epitomized by Javon Wims just punching somebody on the Saints and getting himself tossed out of a game, and they hilariously, just kicked themselves right out of the game in the third quarter. Yes, the game went to overtime, but the Saints were going to win that game. The Bears, the best the Bears could have hoped for was a tie. You never got the feeling they were actually going to win that game. That the execution of the players was just going to be the end of them. And then this past week, yesterday, was a little bit of everything, where you didn't have the right players out there. The players didn't know what they were doing. Perfect example, hilariously enough, before the end of the first half, the Bears run a fake punt and have their backup linebacker pick up a 4th down on a trick play, a fake punt. Then the offense didn't know to get back out on the field, and they have to burn a timeout coming up, all the momentum then of the trick play gets lost. Then also, hilariously enough, they went into the half with that backup linebacker being the team's leading rusher with 1 carry for 11 yards. You also then, first drive of the third quarter, they have a 4th and inches from the Titans' 30-yard line. False start. Oh, and they decide to go for it. All right, yeah, then a false start. Okay, now it's 4th and 5 from the 35. All right, that's a crazy long field goal, but a really short punt. Sure, go for it. Now you're 4th and 5. Then you false start again, and now you're suddenly faced at 4th and 11. You've gone from, hey, 4th and inches, we can pick this up and keep this drive moving, to we have to punt because your guys can't know enough to stand still. It's just a different way to lose every single week. I'm still not ready to get rid of Nagy as a head coach. I think that would... I'm still not there yet. I'm holding out hope that Nagy can right this ship. He's an excellent leader during the week with the players, and the players clearly like him and play for him. You don't get the feeling watching these games that the players have given up, especially on the defense. My goodness, the defensive players have not given up. They've gotten exhausted. They've gotten to a point where they realize that they have to be perfect in order to have any shot of winning the game because the offense is useless, but they haven't given up. So I'm not ready to give up on the head coach yet. And I've heard it said about Nagy that, look, when he was brought in, he got he was handed a quarterback that he might not necessarily have picked if given the chance in Trubisky. And then he hasn't been given a chance to really select his own guy in the draft yet. And he was part of the organization in Kansas City that traded up, that did identify Patrick Mahomes and traded up to get Mahomes specifically. The rebuttal to that has been, yes, but this offseason, if there was ever an offseason to need a veteran quarterback on a short-term basis, this was it. You had Phillip Rivers available. You had Tom Brady available. You had... Sorry, I lost it there because I needed a cough. You had Drew Brees available momentarily. Yes, it was expected he was going to re-sign with the Saints, but he was available. You had Teddy Bridgewater available. You had Cam Newton available. You had all these top-flight quarterbacks available, and instead you told your general manager to go spend a draft pick to acquire Nick Foles. And Nick Foles obviously hasn't worked. As a straight-up starter, he's 2-4. I will give him credit for the Falcons game. The team is 3-4 with Foles at the helm. You had your pick of the litter of quarterbacks, and you chose the wrong guy in free agency this year. So I can't give him a complete total pass there on the personnel decision. I could see Ryan Pace getting the axe this offseason. He's now selected 2 head coaches, and you still haven't seemingly found the answer. He made the decision to trade up and go get Trubisky. Those are huge black marks against him. You know, he got John Fox, the head coach, who flamed out horribly. He made the decision to trade up and get Mitchell Trubisky. That decision's blown up in his face. He's made other drafting mistakes. Adam Shaheen and Kevin White being two of the top ones that come to mind, guys that have just absolutely not panned out at all. And he's also consistently kept trading away picks to move up in the draft and target in on one specific guy, and that his success rate on that has been very poor. So I could see Ryan Pace getting the axe. But if you get rid of Pace and you don't get rid of Matt Nagy, then the vicious cycle just keeps turning over. Well, now you've got a general manager that you're forcing a head coach and a quarterback on. Now you've got to wait another year before you can replace people, and the cycle just keeps repeating itself, and it doesn't work. So they're certainly not going to get rid of either guy during the season. But I don't know that they're necessarily going to get rid of them at the end of the season either. We're going to take one more quick break, and when we come back, I want to talk about some more what can the Bears do and when can the Bears do it to try and salvage this situation. This is Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Ladies and gentlemen, hear me and hear me good. If you like sports, then you like the Wait a Minute Show. If you like comedy, then you like the Wait a Minute Show. If you like a different opinion coming from a different angle, then you like the Wait a Minute Show. So join me Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with your host, Jelani J.B. Bodie. And of course, my man Lopan on the WaitAMinuteShow.com. Ain't that right, Lopan?
Soccer Scoreboard Show with your host, Gabriel Montoya. This is the show for soccer, football fans, or whatever you call the beautiful game. Every week, I tackle the latest and greatest news from around the soccer world. From the English Premier League, to the World Cup, to MLS, Liga MX, and more. You can listen to the Soccer Scoreboard Show and our lineup of fantastic guests every Friday at noon here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hey USRN fans, do you have a product or company you're trying to promote? Look no further. USRN is teaming up with small local businesses trying to establish themselves via online promotion. Let us know if you're interested. Email us at usrnradio@gmail.com to learn more.
College football, and do you want to hear a college football show dedicated to all that is college football, including junior college and the CCCAA and the NJCAA, the NAIA, and the NCAA, including Division III, Division II, Division I AA in the FCS, and Division I A in the FBS? Well then, look no further. Join myself, Larry B., and my colleagues, Mr. H-Town Blake Henley, and Mr. Christian Espinoza, each week during the college football season for the latest in college football on 3 and Out College Edition, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hey, what's up, BS3 sports fans? If you love listening to the BS3 Sports Show, check out the weekend wrap-up every Monday at 12:15 Central Time, 1:15 Eastern, recapping the weekend in sports like you never heard it before. Comedy, interactive chat room, it's a must-listen. Weekend wrap-up on Spreaker.com, part of the X Squad. Check it out. You won't be disappointed.
And welcome back to Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Last little bit from this kind of depressing Bears show. I'm sorry about that. I try to be upbeat about the Bears. I try to be positive about them, even when they're not playing all that great. I try to stay positive because, like many of you, we all love our teams. We all want to see our teams do well, and we get upset when they don't. But at the end of the day, we want to see them succeed and do well. So I'm sorry that this one's been a little bit of a downer episode. I didn't necessarily mean it to be that way when I set out to start the day. I did also want a programming. You may have heard the ad in there for the Soccer Scoreboard show. That show actually has a new host, Andrew Hagenbaugh. He does an awesome job on Sundays. Right now is when his show is talking about football. Check, if you are at all a soccer fan, check that out. Basically, if you're a fan of sports, odds are over here on IE Sports, we've got something for you. If you should listen to the ads in between. Me, I understand if you don't listen to all of them, but listen to some different ones every week. We've got baseball, racing, boxing. Marcus does an awesome job with the Gloves Off show. Just all kinds of fun different shows and things to do. So check out some of the different stuff on the network, and of course all the live calls over on USRN that they do. So, and we're a pretty cool group too. Davidson Crooks, for example, is one of the hosts of the Fast Break show on Sunday nights, and he and I were chatting a little bit during the week. He's a Titans fan, and he was actually worried that the Bears offense would find some success against the Titans this week. I told him no. The Bears offense is very good at being the cure for whatever ails a defense, and that proved to be the case yet again. So what do you do to fix this Bears team? Obviously, the trade deadline has passed, and I didn't expect them to do anything at the trade deadline this year anyway, for a couple of reasons. One, more so this year than any other year, the COVID protocols make it very difficult for a team to bring in a player from outside the organization on short notice. I checked in with Sean Hammond, who's a friend of the program. He was on last week, and he's been on a few times. He covers the Bears as a beat reporter for Shaw Media. I texted with him back and forth a little bit last week when all the COVID stuff was going on, because there was a chance at one point that it looked like the Bears might actually go into that game with only Nick Foles at quarterback, because Mitch had injured his shoulder in the one play he played against the Saints, and then it looked for a minute like maybe Tyler Bray, the third stringer, had COVID. So it was, oh my goodness, can the Bears bring somebody in? And Sean told me, no, I'm pretty sure it takes 6 days to bring in somebody from the outside. So no, you can't just bring somebody in. And especially this year at the trade deadline, you trade for somebody, you don't get him right away for that first game, because he's got to cycle through the COVID protocols before you can bring him in. So it's an extra week before you get that player. So that was one reason, looking at it, that no, they're not going to trade for somebody. And then also the cap. The salary cap always just looms so large at the trade deadline. You've got to have space monetarily to afford to bring in somebody. And not only your cap this year, but the cap for the rest of that player's guaranteed money. You've got to be able to absorb that into your cap space. And the Bears are tight against that. I've talked about that before. Unfortunately, it's the reality of the situation. The Bears are tight against the cap. So I didn't see any player personnel moves getting made to fix anything this year. But what about for next year? Well, they're up against the cap again for next year, and the cap is probably going to go down for next year. Overthecap.com is projecting a total cap of about $180 million. That might be a generous estimate. Nobody knows. I've seen estimates as low as $174 million. If it's $180 million, the Bears only have about $1.5 million in cap space to play with. That's tough. You can't just go out there and find that magic free agent. To me, the two biggest issues that you're going to have to address are going to be the quarterback and the offensive line. Both of those cost big bucks in free agency, and I just don't think the Bears are going to have it, are going to be able to find it without having to cut some people. Taking a quick look at the list, some players that you're more apt to cut are guys you don't want to cut. Guys like Akeem Hicks, Kyle Fuller, Buster Screen. Those are going to be guys that, man, those are guys that are playing well. I don't want to see those guys miss out on the Bears. I want to see those guys here. I want to see this defense for one more season and figure out a way to put it together. But short of hitting on somebody in the draft, I don't know how they're going to be able to do it. So the Bears are in for an interesting rest of the way, and I don't know how they fix it in the offseason. But all that said, the NFL is a week-to-week league. Heck, we saw Carolina go toe-to-toe with Kansas City yesterday, and the Bears manhandled the Panthers a couple weeks ago. That was their best win of the year. So who knows? We got 8 weeks, 7 games left of this to go. They got to turn it around, and they got to turn it around fast. But who knows? With their remaining schedule, things could be interesting. Things could be interesting for the Bears. All right. That's been our show this week. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you had fun. I still had fun doing it. So I guess that counts for something, I guess. Even if the Bears are frustrating and they're trending in the wrong direction, and I don't think they've bottomed out and hit rock bottom on this thing yet, we still got to hang in and watch them and hashtag at least we're not the Jets, right? Coming up tonight, no Let's Whine About Sports. Matt has got the night off, but again, go check out Seth Eves over on USRN doing the Monday night call of Patriots versus Jets. And then also later tonight, 8:30 Central Time, you can check it out on our Facebook page, The Unfiltered Truth. The two Phils talking about the Las Vegas Raiders and their big win over the Chargers yesterday. Check them out in the chat feed. Maybe say thanks for the Khalil Mack deal. I'm still liking him. Everybody stay safe, stay healthy. Next week, we will once again be doing an all Monday night preview show, Vikings and Bears. Here's the chance to turn this puppy around and get the ship righted heading into the bye. Everybody stay healthy. We'll talk next week.